My Dinner with Andre.
My Dinner with Andre?
A Dinner with Andre.
My Dinner with Andre.
Those are kind of movies I generally like. I like other kinds of movies too.
It's just this crazy conversation.
There's that great scene where Andre Gregory is talking to Wallace Shawn, and he says, you know, we have to wonder if such a thing as a human person will still be a thing in the future.
See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished. And that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing.
I finished A Dinner with Andre the same night that he watched it, and so it's one of those things that pops up, you know? All of a sudden there's these weird resonances, and there's these weird serendipities.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean, why is that? I mean, is it just because people are lazy today, or they're bored? I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do?
I want my TLC. Okay. Wow. All right. Where's my grandma's at? How do I actually use this again? Okay. This part goes, hello. All right, yeah. So hope everybody's had their quail and potato soup. We're starting a little early. I was just leaning against a building and crying. So yeah. The Ezra Geo's table is not quite ready, but you can have a drink at the bar if you like. That is what I'm doing. Thank you, Slack. Yes. And may they continue to do so. Howdy, Risto. Howdy, everybody. Hello. The General Griswold Gaius Grimm was gracious enough to offer his ship to host this dinner. We declined because, see, if we crashed or we abandoned vessel over there, that'd be letting him down. Whereas here, it's just letting all of you down. So yeah, here I am talking about movies on YouTube, something I've literally been avoiding for years. This came about in part because of a coincidence. I was, my wife Allison and I were watching this movie with our friend Cage, and we actually stopped halfway through and just started talking. I guess that's how you beat the movie, is you have a conversation instead of watching it that is as compelling as the movie. But then I saw that the next day, it's like Luke had watched it the same night. Serendipity, other people then mentioned it in quick succession, as seen in the trailer. So I am going to drop the link now, if I can figure out how to do that. And we will see who is trying to attend the dinner here. Okay. Am I just clicking randomly right now? Here it is. I don't think I have the pin the link capability, so we might just keep throwing this out there. And yeah, so man, this is happening.
Whoa! Did that ballast just shot? The shells just fly on my head red. Look at it go! Hey, little guy, you're prancing all over. This is the coolest thing ever.
I don't think I have like the pin capability. Like they need to like do a background check or something on me before I can pin something. That's what it said on my YouTube. But yeah. It's not showing up in the chat either. Can I add it to the no one can attend. That's great. What if I add it to the description? Will that work? Trying to add to description. Being added to the description. Wow, that's weird that it would edit out my my thing. If I do it in here, does it work? Does this work? No, YouTube rejected. Damn. Okay. Well, it should be in the description now. That could happen. That could. Okay. The link is in the description. I will add that to the banner. Can I do that? Link in description. Someone's trying to come on. Hello, we have people. Hello, Matt C.
Hey, howdy.
Hey, we haven't met. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well.
Where
Good to chat with you. Thanks for the invitation to dinner.
Yeah, my pleasure. Where are you coming in from?
Very bottom of Florida.
Wow, okay. How long have you been there?
More than half my life. I've done some Andre adventures, and I've done some Wally domesticity stuff. Yeah. So
yeah.
This will be fun.
Well, yeah, give me a super short, just like how you got into TLC kind of thing.
Yeah, finding PVK because of Jordan Peterson wanting PVK to become the Dutch Reform Jordan Peterson, flaming out because he resisted every crown that was cast at his feet. And then circling back a year later, realizing that this place isn't for that. It isn't for conquering. So
cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean you're Dutch Reform then?
No, but I like them. They seem like nice people. They seem like they could handle the throne.
Yeah, right on. All right, Risto.
Hey.
Good. How's it going?
Good.
Where are you coming in from?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Sweet. Now, had both of you seen this film before? Or was this your first viewing of this film? Risto? First viewing?
No, I'd seen it before, quite a while ago. So I'm a little bit rusty on some of the details.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully people can find the description if more people want to come on. But yeah, so for starters, setting our table here. Oh yeah, we're sitting down at the table. So for one thing, let's get rid of this. Anybody who watched the movie, that was a reference. Okay, yeah, so Private Detective, skip the small talk. What in the movie really resonated with you or absolutely failed to resonate with you? Matt C first.
This is challenging because Risto and I were actually talking beforehand. He's already smiling.
Over dinner?
And we were colluding about what would be our angle depending on how you set the table. But because you're refusing to set the table, so now we can't play against you, which is fun. Because I kind of walked a tightrope with this, and I think the film asks you to do that. It's supposed to not be an easy film, I think. So I love aspects of it and I hate aspects of it. And I think that's probably something that's probably an honorific that the creators of the film would appreciate. You know, I think if you fell easily into one of the two dialogue partners' camps too quickly, then you wouldn't be listening to the film. And if you also didn't understand that the film is critiquing or just kind of self-reflectively evaluating the ritual of watching movies to feel alive, then you're not listening either. And yet, you know, Wally says, like, doesn't theater have, it's like, there is something still to that, right? Like, you don't have to climb Mount Everest. Not everyone can do that. But that's one of the things that the theater does, is it brings Everest down to the audience in a way. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I'm kind of wandering between loving and hating it. So if you love it too hard, I'm going to hate it, just to make it entertaining. And vice versa.
Well, yeah, and like I just keep thinking about with different people's reactions, or people who maybe didn't even want to watch it or couldn't get through it. It's like, I just think, well, remember, Wally doesn't want to meet Andre at all. So if you start watching the movie and you don't like it, you may be connecting with the lead character there. Ethan, what resonated? Anything? Introduction? Anything you want to say? You've just been added to the screen.
Way to frame August.
I'm from Wisconsin. I wanted the film to go on for like another 45 minutes, because like Andre just wouldn't shut up, and then like by the time Wally started like chirping in, I was like, get into it, and then it was like over, and I was kind of annoyed.
Well, yeah, it's like Wally doesn't really want to, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to have to say anything. You know, he's afraid that if he's in a room and he has to just be, he'll fail. So, Risto, thoughts? Introductory thoughts?
It was a super unique movie for me, because it's one of the few movies. I mean, I think there's been some afterwards, after I saw that one, where I was thinking about it a few days later. So not many movies are like that sticky for me. So I wasn't totally sure, like, if I agree with everyone's take on everything in that movie, but it did get me thinking. So I appreciated that part of the movie. And I'd mentioned this to Matt, probably the big mind-blowing thing for me was about halfway through, or 3/4 of the way through, I realized that the characters in the movie, that their names were the same names as the actors. So I didn't know that going into it, that these dinners really happened, and these guys they're just reenacting their friendship and their conversations that they had.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to point out. And that's one of the things I find in some ways most fascinating about it, because it's a movie made by two friends, starring two friends, written by two friends, about friendship in a way.
Well, and stuff they'd experienced, like if it's just some fictional account of a playwright going off to, was it Poland?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he goes to Poland, the Sahara, India, and Scotland.
Yeah, and then like weird stories about like a Nazi flag in an apartment. It's some of it's kind of fantastical, and then you find out like, oh, like, did this stuff all happen to him?
Well, yeah, and I was even Googling some of the references and things. It's like, oh yeah, no, that's Findhorn's a real place in Scotland. Okay, that's a real. I think he did most of this stuff.
Yep.
Am I driving? Welcome to the table.
Howdy.
Scott, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome to the welcome to the table. This is the private detective aspect, where I, like Wally in the film, am prying you guys with questions and not tipping my hand. So, what did you think of the movie?
I didn't like it.
What was most off-putting?
There's no hope.
There's no hope. Yep. Yeah, it's a little bit this. Yeah. Because
I mean, they walk away and like there's no direction. They both walk away from the table just as lost, if not more lost. Because now they've seen each other's Lost.
Yeah. I can see that. Well, yeah, like I can't remember when I first saw this, but I remember that when I first saw it, I was just like, I am Wally. I am Wally in this movie. Now, that doesn't mean I necessarily identified a ton with Wally as a character, but I think I'm fairly forgiving of movies. Like I tend to watch movies like I don't know, it's like I'm having somebody else's dream, and it's like I'm gonna try to interpret this dream for the betterment of my life, which is kind of what I see the point of dream interpretation is. Like if you interpret a dream and it's like to renew your spirit or something like that, like renew the relation between your mind and your body and yourself and your life or other things. I think that can be healthy if you have dreams and you're like, you think you should just do whatever the dream said to do. That's more dangerous. That's getting in. And so then having other people's dreams, it's like, well, this can just be like mind control at the highest level. If you see a movie and you're just like, oh, this is what's reality now, you're going to get into some trouble. But I tend to go in and be like, what can I get out of this in a kind of a spiritual way? So I'm just kind of like trying to make it work. And I remember the first time I was like, oh man, Wally, 100%. Oh, when Wally finally starts talking about, science does work and stuff, and like, you're insane. I was like, yeah. But, it's been many years. I've watched it a few times. And this last time I was just like, oh man, like I've become Andre, and so yeah.
Fascinating.
Let's talk about, did we connect more with Andre or Wally, and why? What do you guys think?
Well, I think day-to-day life is very much, especially if you have a routine, is very much Wally. It's easy to you just get in the routine and you forget why you're doing it, and you get caught in the struggle of it. So like that's very much like what that movie's doing, is those conversations with Andre kind of shook that routine, out of Wally a little bit. Even though he pushed back against it, at the end he's kind of reflecting on it in the car ride home. So probably most of us relate to Wally, but I think there's also with Andre, it's like, what is the nature of this world? Is it mundane or magical? Not that the mundane can't also be magical, but like I think I think we need the poetic perspective to kind of shake us, maybe help us to realize that the mundane can be magical. Like I don't know if everyone has to go to Poland and go through all that weird stuff that he did, but that's why the movie, like I said, I'm not sure if I agree with the movie or not, but it did have me chewing on it. It's very much a corner movie. When I first got as part of the corner, I was like, oh yeah, My Dinner with Andre is like, that movie embodies, what the corner is kind of about. Although I think the corner's better than the movie, but.
Oh yeah, one thing that like jumped out this last time was that a couple different things. One was that I think the first time I watched it, or first couple times, like I really just took in kind of Andre's vibe as this like creative weirdo. So it's like I'm reacting a lot to just like, oh, this like bipolar dude is like going off about whatever, And this time I noticed a little bit that like he kind of lays out all the crazy things he did. And then he says, like, those were all crazy and really amounted to nothing.
Mm.
And now I'm in this, like, different place. And I didn't really pick up on that the first time. I guess I still thought of him as, like, he's just this dude who does these, like, self-indulgent, crazy things. But this time I was kind of like, oh, he kind of like went through a journey of this like deconstruction, doing all these crazy things. And now he's like in this other place. But of course, Wally is like, in a way, he's like trying hard not to deconstruct anything. It's like, what could be better than, I'm reading a autobiography of
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston. Yeah, what could be better in life than reading Charlton Heston's autobiography and sleeping with my electric blanket?
Well, and yet, like, what did a lot of us do last fall? We went to Chicago, and then we talked about the darkest quarters of our soul in Estuary with like 7 or 8 strangers. We ate Chicago-style hot dogs, and then we all went home, and then wondered what happened. I'm starting to think, like, I think TLC is more like Andre. I'm grateful in a way that everybody's connecting with Wally, but I think Andre's maybe a dark mirror to a lot of us in a lot of ways. Like, you kidding? Like, talking about the beehive scenario, that doesn't sound like Estuary on a Friday on a PVK live stream to you guys. Like, anything could happen.
Yep. Yeah, it's like whatever, 70 people come into a room and whatever happens is a beehive. It's like, yeah.
You kidding? Yeah.
7 people coming to this estuary and who knows what's going to happen. And like he talks about the importance of play and like adults were playing again in these different things he did. Like that stuff really resonates. If anything, I think maybe the TLC has a nice balance of Wally and Andre. Because, a lot of things that Wally ends up saying, I connected a lot to Vervaeke, like, and he even, I think at the end he's even like struggling to find a reference to explain what they're talking about. And he's like, well, I think Heidegger even said, I'm like, oh, like Heidegger's sort of like the godfather of cog sci and stuff. Ethan, what are you thinking over there?
I really like Andre. I couldn't stand Wally. I mean, the thing I texted you was, this is the only thing I texted you. I didn't send all my thoughts on Signal and just skip ahead. I said it's like when an unbuffered self has dinner with a buffered self. And I just kept thinking about like the buffer and the unbuffer, and like even like TLC, I feel like there's so much, it's like, when is Martin Shaw going to come back around so we can just like sit and have dinner with Martin Shaw and listen to his wild stories? Like, or like, when's the next Jordan Hall event going to be? And we're going to sit and listen to this guy that just tell these wild stories. Like, I feel like TLC like is the dinner itself.
Who should I Jordan Hall? Southeast Georgia joke. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, what about you, Scott? Did you connect to Wally more than Andre, or were you just like, hey, these?
Am I allowed to connect to the waiter?
You are, yeah. I was gonna ask if anybody. You could also connect to the waiter.
I connected to the waiter.
Yeah, he kind of seems to be seething a little. Were you seething?
I wouldn't say I was seething. I was just like, guys, like, really? I mean, there's work to be done. Come on, man. Let's go.
Well, Wally likes to do his work, but unfortunately it's mailing out scripts and getting up at 10 in the morning. He had to be up at 10. So that's what he says at the beginning. Ugh.
I mean, if I had to pick, it would probably be Andre, just because I can relate a little bit to his arc, where I've kind of gone way kind of out there on the edge and have kind of come back, and now I'm serving some quail. Like I'm just doing the work. I mean, I don't want to say that what Andre isn't going through isn't significant. and that I don't see when I empathize with other people that that's exactly what they feel. I mean, especially to the up and coming, you know, like that the when he said, all I think about is money as he's going to the dinner, and realizing within himself that that is just a seething way to be. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of, you know. So if I had to choose somebody that I related to with outside of the waiter, I would go with Andre.
Right on. Well, yeah, and like it's funny to have personally like totally shifted on that because I think like my dad is very Andre, and so when I was younger, it's like I would be trying to balance the other way, like he was a little deconstructing at that time. So then I was like, I remember taking like the one of the like personality tests, like the INT whatever, and I got like 100% thinking and 100% judging when I was like young, because it was like, my dad had like 100% the other way, and so I was like, just
it's a
like
survival tactic.
Yeah, and it was just like very reactionary, But then like it was wild watching it now, because I kind of felt like, oh, like I went to Midwestray and it was like my Finhorn in a way, or like finding Vervaeke's channel in 2019 was part of this journey. And I'd kind of deconstructed in a lot of ways earlier than that, but it was like the beginning of putting anything back together, I guess. And so, and now very recently, it's like a lot of the things that Andre ends up talking about, where he's kind of talking about the reenchantment of the world and bringing in these pagan ideas. I mean, that's like stuff that is around the corner all the time, and that I hear about all the time now, but like I don't remember ever coming across anything remotely like that in pop culture or in my life. And this from 1981. So I was like, this, it seems very relevant what he's talking about. And the other thing I'd like to ask you guys about is there's kind of a turn at a certain point where Andre's like, yeah, all that crazy stuff I did that's like sort of hippie adjacent, that didn't work for me. And now I'm just seeing that like we're doomed. How did you guys react to like his sort of doom arc, where he's talking about how we live in a dream world? New York is the new concentration camp where the prisoners are the guards and they're proud of their prison. What did you guys think of some of his conspiratorial type thoughts?
Well, did you think he felt like he was locked in that prison, or is he just kind of making commentary on New York City and society? Like, you could almost make that same critique about like the media landscape 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it seems like he's saying that it's going nowhere good, like it seems like he's kind of foretelling of this. Like, people are still talking about the same things, like a world totalitarian government built on money. Now like AI is the new like doomer kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely, it's another on-ramp to Andre. Dark Andre should be very accessible to most people who are online, and internet community people should be able to connect with them. It's funny because that happens, if I remember right, that happens after Wally has already pitched that you should be able to see God at the cigar store. Same as on Everest. Like, he's already connected that up. And then like 10 minutes later, Andre's on his dark mode storyline. And that's when I start to realize, this was my perspective, is that Andre he hasn't really deconstructed because he's still he didn't hear Wally's insight, which is maybe a buffered self insight. I don't know, but like he's still looking for an adventure, and he's still anxious about the trappings of his current environment, and he's still chasing the high, and he's worried that he's not, he's getting too acclimated to the high, so it's not getting him as high anymore, and he's starting to freak out, because home is just not going to give him that high. So it felt like again, it's something I can relate to Andre on that front. But it was interesting to see that Wally already shot a shot in a way, and I thought you could have ended the movie on that point if you wanted Wally to be the hero in a way. If you wanted to just tell that story that he corrected Andre or something. And again, the movie's too complex. It's not trying to. This isn't a debate between them, It's not a winner or a loser. But it's interesting that Wally went there, which is kind of his summit in a way, when he makes that insight, and then you get a valley of them kind of working through as a result of those insights that they had, that they're still not grasping. They're not able to really go home with something completely, which is tragic, especially for Wally, who said that he could see things comfortably. Like he's comfortable living in the Shire. And not leaving the Shire, and yet he's going home, feeling incomplete in a way that he didn't before. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I was just going to lay a question if Ethan didn't mind, because it's kind of his turn. But don't you think the movie left this like kernel of possibility in Wally, that like that seed had the potential to grow? I mean, it's kind of what I felt like. Like if those two men were going to take anything fruitful from it, it was going to be Wally.
Yeah, like here's a comment from Val. Hey Val, if we live in a dream, then is it so terrible to refine the dream we want to live, even if that means living the same dream over and over? Perhaps we can refine the self by rehearsing its ideal cycle. That's, part of what I love about it, what I think works about the movie is that it doesn't add up. Like they don't go into this dinner and then both walk away like we have figured it out, and I have yet to have a dinner like that. And so, that felt realistic, but I do agree that there's this kernel, because it's like we have a sense as the audience that like, oh, if you just added these guys together somehow, could we just get the right fit of the two, then we would like really be getting somewhere. But I agree with what you said, Matt, that like, when Andre kind of goes into his like positive side of what the future could be, it gets pretty out there pretty fast, and it seems like he is maybe chasing that high. He says something like, we need to develop a new language of the heart where and we have to go like through a looking glass, and we have to like live in this space where like things are tears and laughter at the same time and stuff like that. And he might not be wrong completely, but it sounds a little too, like he wants to see 9-foot tall creatures in the church,
Well, it's a good insight about if you could just combine the two, because that is what's happening. That's the beauty of friendship. They're kind of very two different friends, or at least in two very different places, and you are seeing part of the combining of the two. That is the dinner, that is the back and forth, and then Wally's going off playing beautifully contemplative song at the end that he's listening to, that's where I first learned about Eric Satie, the composer from that movie. And it's not, you know, the movie, the beautiful thing is it's not trying to give you all those answers. It's just saying, here's some conversations we had and how that interacted. It would be interesting to know more of the story, you know, like what happened with them. What did they take away? I'm sure they've given interviews years later, but
on the Eric Satie thing, all I could think when I watched Awakening from the Meaning Crisis was, oh, that's the song from My Dinner with Andre. And I just assume that must be why he
chose it.
Why he chose it, yeah. Or it's just a heck of a coincidence because there's so much, I mean, yeah, like it weirdly seems like there's so many things talked about it that come up in Awakening from the Meaning Crisis for sure.
Yeah, so for Vakey's work is My Dinner with Andre Part 2.
It kind of it. I mean, it may be. One thing I remember is I think the reason I watched this movie originally is because of Roger Ebert. So if you're from Illinois, especially, Roger Ebert is like, you know, has some kind of importance if you grew up, you know, worshiping Set and just being obsessed with movies. And I actually think Roger Ebert was a really wonderful kind of presence because he did being a film critic more like it was like he was a consumer advocate. So he was like explaining to like the average person, like, here's what you can expect like with this movie, you know, and he'd be like, this one's really good. And then he'd be like, you know, you're not gonna like this one, but it's good, but you
not for the kids.
Yeah. Stuff like that. And I remember reading that he had said that somebody asked him if he could think of a movie free of cliches. And he said, My Dinner with Andre, as the least cliche movie he could think of. To which we could respond, well, I mean, they do. The dessert comes at the end, like the main course is in the middle. How?
It's such a stereotypically New Yorker movie, though.
Yeah,
that is very true.
Dessert doesn't come in the end, though. It's espresso.
Good point, Chad. Chad, what do you got to say?
I loved it. I thought it was obviously it's kind of a proto podcast. I don't know if you guys have already said that, but it's really interesting how kind of like the mode that, or like the character of Andre, and even I guess Shaw have like kind of filtered down into the culture over the decades into more of a mainstream, at least in our world. You know, it's kind of interesting, and I don't know. I thought that Andre was like he's so hungry. He reminds me of like myself in some ways, being really antsy and not ever being able to be just like he has this insatiable thirst or hunger that needs to be like a connection. The connection can't be average or like, you know, just like sitting with your family at the dinner table and having, you know, shitty homemade spaghetti. It has to be, no, somebody has to go do like this death, this eulogy for me. They have to kidnap me and bury me, and like that's what I need to feel alive. And he can't help it, you know, and so he lives fully into that. I just think it's really interesting. Reminds me of spiritual bypassing, I guess.
In what way?
He's trying all these different things to get connected. He says it's theater, but it's not. He thinks he's looking for the perfect theater experience or something, but he's actually looking to get connected to the transcendentals. And so he's trying all these different kinds of experiences to basically force the eschaton or immanentize the eschaton in some way. Like he's trying to bring, he wants to manage. And I think it's the same thing that his counterpart does. He's trying to basically manage his spiritual reality, but that's not the words they're using. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Whatever.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like I really like how it evolved to where at the beginning Wally is just like trying to not really be at the dinner. He even says like he doesn't want to go and he's not sure he'll make it through. And then it's like I'm just gonna ask him questions so that there's no focus on me like at all. And also this time watching, I noticed this detail where he says that Andre used to be like a very close friend and was the guy who gave him his start in the theater. And this time that really stood out to me as like, oh, that's like important structural detail there. Because there's a sense in which it's like, I guess I think of Wally as like, you don't want this dinner, but you came. So it's like, this is kind of how it works when you're a more buffered self, but you need to grow. You need something better than a actor's autobiography and an electric blanket and a cup of cold coffee that hopefully doesn't have a cockroach in it. And you sense that this guy, Andre, who's been like crying against buildings and freaking out after seeing Bergman movies, like you sense that like this is the guy who has it, who might have it, but I'm not sure how much of it I want. And so I think that that's part of like what might be that kernel that you were talking about, Scott, at the end, where it's like, I feel like Wally has had his experience expanded in a way that could be positive. I don't think he's going to go home and be like, well, we live in a totalitarian state from a world government and there's no point in anything. I think he's going to like go home and tell Debbie about this crazy dinner he had. Ethan, say more things.
Nazi stuff too, kind of. Oh, sorry.
Chad, you can talk too.
Yeah, can we talk about the Nazis? That was a frequent.
I was thinking about how I was thinking about the Nazis are kind of like this motivating force in Andre's worldview, and like he's trying to get to the bottom of something that maybe he doesn't even know that. I don't know. Maybe we're psychologizing there, but it's like they're definitely this kind of motivating spirit, power, or principality that's kind of like shoving him around probably his whole life. And to your point about Wally not being a good or Wally being a friend or whatever, he kind of sounds like an opportunist a little bit early on. Like I don't know.
Ethan, words?
I mean, the line that stuck out to me the most was pretty early on, and it was from Andre, and he says something like, "I could always live in my art, but never in my life," I think is what he says. And like, I just like relate to that a lot. This idea that you can like create something from your life that is not your life, that gets shared with other people, that's about your life, and everyone gets to see your life, but it's not really your life. So everyone walks away feeling content, as if they have like a window into your reality, but the reality you're giving them is purely manufactured and isn't quite real. It's only really what you want them to see. And in some sense, like that's what the internet is too. That's a description of pro-felicity until you end up like covered in mustard and ketchup in Chicago eating hot dogs.
Yeah, like similar to Ethan, I kind of want to defend Andre a little bit because I think he's a mirror
I'm not
to
defending.
TLC.
I'm not defending.
Okay, well, then I'm gonna do it because I think he's more TLC than maybe we're comfortable with, and if we're all trying to just live these amazing, thrilling rando experiences by plugging in to TV screens and watching little faces before we're very much in an Andre mode in a way, I think, and in good ways, amazing ways, and in ways that are demonstrably critiqued in the film by Wally, by the film itself. I think that's interesting. He's looking for the thrill of those connections, but those connections are mediated through these in a way through his own kind of buffered situation, and the buffer is the adventure that he goes on, the exoticism, and this film was made in 1981 or 81, but it feels a lot like the sort of things that we might do through online experiences. Maybe we don't go to plays anymore, maybe the theaters closed decades ago, but it's relevant to the question of whether or not I'm already kind of undermining my critique because I think Wally says this pretty well about the benefit of the theater, which in our present parlance would be the benefit of YouTube streaming, I suppose. We could all just do this on a phone call, but we do it on live streams. Why do we do it in front of an audience? We do everything in front of audiences now, and Wally's got some insights on that, but Andre does too in a way. He's living through a performance reality that he's aware of enough to mention that. And I think that was really profound. It was he basically says pro-felicity without using the word.
For sure.
Yeah, but that what was interesting to your point, Ethan and Matt, when he goes and gets buried, he says that was for a theater, an audience of one. Right?
Yeah.
And so again, he needs to live his art, right? This pro-felicity stance isn't enough, and he needs to get to something where it's actually, and so he steps into all these arenas that are very dangerous, because that's how life is. It's that's why he leans, I think, into the improvisational theater, because it's more like life, but he can't live actual life, which is interesting.
I thought one of the most interesting kind of critiques that Andre and Wally share is when they kind of turn on their sort of New York upper crust, whatever art world thing. And they're talking about how basically everyone's acting all the time in these very shallow parts where people can't even express anything real or human. They just act out in weird dark humor and things that don't even really make any sense. And as they're describing this, you can kind of understand oh yeah, that makes sense that's the edgy art world of the 80s, but how much of just the internet is that now? And the people kind of being in a role all the time as they become an influencer or something, or that line between acting and not acting blurring. And I like this part where he said that his because he talks about this theater director who's sort of his mentor, and his mentor said, theater doesn't make sense anymore because people the people are acting, the people are faker than the theater. So what sense does it make to do that. And I feel like a lot of what we see today is like, you know, people seeking out ways to find authenticity or find some kind of being real again. And, you know, that leads to like what I thought was sort of the most TLC part to me was here.
They're feeling that there'll be these pockets of light springing up in different parts of the world, and that these will be, in a way, invisible planets on this planet. And that as we, or the world, grow colder, we can take invisible space journeys to these different planets, refuel for what it is we need to do on the planet itself, and come back. And come back. And come back.
And it's their feeling that there have to be centers now where people can come and reconstruct a new future for the world.
I mean, aren't these centers like popping up all the time today? Like, at the beginning of the meaning crisis, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, he's talking about how there's this spontaneous thing of all kinds of things people are trying. It's like, it's not the upper crust society people. It's like everyone's trying these like Andre things. Everyone's trying, there's spiritual retreats. I've been to a 10-day meditation retreat. There's like so many different avenues. And still today we know like kind of what those more elite types are doing. Like maybe now it's like the tech kind of people. And we know that they get into like Buddhism and they get into, transhumanism and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this is like late stage individualism, basically. Late stage authenticity culture. There's like no sincerity culture to tether to. It's just everything is like. That's why I didn't really. This whole roles thing kind of was like, it was annoying me because like the picture that he kept giving about the roles that people have were just like thumbnails. They weren't like actual people. Sorry.
Well, yeah, and like your point, Chad, if he wanted, like, that's why they kept inventing these liturgies and rituals that had no structure, because they were building from just from authenticity, just from themselves. So they just had a bunch of individuals in the room, and they just said, whatever happens, that's the liturgy of the night, or somebody would abduct them on Halloween. And then perform something that looks strangely Masonic. Like part of me is like, if you just had these, gentlemen's clubs where you could, like, if Andre just become Freemason, maybe he would have been more grounded or something. Because he was playing with Christian motifs, but the signal was always that we're kind of beyond that. We're playing in the buffet line of what's interesting and fun, but this is really like an aesthetic kind of smorgasbord that we're engaged with, like Yahweh is a woman on some play that he made. You know what I mean? Like they don't even blink when they say this stuff because it's just understood that we're here to be eclectic and just sort of collect experiences. But you can't, if you're going to collect experiences, you can't do that sincerely. Is the challenge, and that's the struggle of his life, I suppose, in a way, which again is relatable, I think, to TLCers for the most part. Is how you also want that sincerity. How do you construct it? You can't just make it up. You can't just read a book, or you can't just go to Poland and have something that's lasting. Sincerely, that's just another performance. It's another stage play. It's another spin of the algorithm is all it is. So
what I hear in that is how is the one in the many, and how prophilicity and playing multiple roles is all about this multiplicity, and where there's many selves and you have this kind of fractured self. And then when you start talking about something like authenticity or sincerity, we're talking about unity. We're talking about how do these things come back together and unify into something like, an individual or something, or even a person, I guess is a better term. And I don't know, like it's funny if you take like a more theological read on it. Like I kind of take it as like I had this thought this time that's like, you know, they never talk about God or religion at all. It's only Eastern religion, etc. But these pagan things come in, and it's like I got this image of like, you know, you're in Western culture. It's like we sawed off the branch that got us here, and then, you know, it's like Andre fell out of the tree, and then he's like groping around for something, and he finds the trunk of the tree, which is like a pagan, pre-religious or pre-like modern religion, you know, anything can be anything kind of spirit world. And then he's like, this has something that's missing. You know, maybe I should look in here or whatever. And he's still struggling to find a way to like get a self back out of it. But it does seem like this is kind of the road we're taking. And like lately, I've just been thinking like, well, you know, I mean, is there really an alternative to like paganism? Like it's this weird of like you could have many gods or one god, but if we worship with attention, if attention is worship, then we all have a multitude of attention. So we all have a multitude of gods, like say movies, you know, and then we like want a higher, better god or something. But I feel like the downstream from the Enlightenment and modernism is like a rebranded paganism, where it's like, oh no, we're not pagans. We don't believe in gods. That's crazy. We don't believe in spirits or anything like that. These ridiculous concepts. We just worship all these different, you know, weird things, and we're, you know. But I don't really see how that's different. Like, you know, I grew up with the gods of like the television and the movie screen. They, you know, are pretty strong gods.
Andre is certainly a magician in a way, you know, trying to conjure scenarios and situations out of creation in order to bring the gods down, like to bind them so they have to bless us or curse us, you know. I think that's interesting. There is something, there's a pagan aspect to that.
Well, I just mean like acknowledging that attention is a form of worship, is worship in a sense. So a lot of these concepts like do have, you know, import, like, you know, it's one of these things where in the corner it's gotten so normal to talk about all these kinds of things. But I see that there's some penetration like into the broader discourse now. But I don't know how deep it is. Like, is this, like, is the, you know, like how re-enchanted is the average person? Yeah, I don't know.
I think everybody,
and I just mean I don't know,
feels disenchanted. I think everybody feels disenchanted, but they're not. That's kind of the issue, right? We know there's something more about us. We just can't deconstruct our way to it. And really, I'm thinking that in the movie itself, it provides an antidote or a pathway. I'm wondering if Andre ever had a conversation like he had with Wally while he was out on his ark, right? And so he's actually having this conversation. And you get a sense that Andre's talking for the first time very openly about his experience. He brings up his wife, but I can't, and he mentions that he loves his wife, I believe, but you get a sense that he's not as open with her as he's being with, and that's where the thing happens. And that would make the movie more interesting to me now, having that perspective. right? Because it's two guys going out there trying their best to find the secret sauce. But it's really right there at the dinner table having some quail with a snooty waiter going, I got to get home.
Well, and Wally is, I think he's scared of how the conversation is going to go, how it might affect his life. Like he's discontented, but also scared. That's something I can definitely relate to. I think that, we can definitely relate to that. And one of my questions is like, what is Andre scared of? Because I think probably also there's things that would shake his world up in a sense that he might be afraid to face.
Like not being able to afford quail, for instance, or like we talk about buffered cells. It's like he is pretty buffered with his whatever, inheritance is running his life.
But it's probably deeper than that even.
Hard to get to India, and...
Yeah. I think he fears the most what he's going to find when he gets to the center
Mm-hmm.
of what he's looking for.
He always finds
which New York
though,
reflects to him, I think, right? Yeah. That's why he doesn't want to be home.
Well, that is interesting because just thinking of the types of guys they are, because it's like these creative New York intellectual type guys. Their whole lives are about their kind of careers, and it's very like self-oriented. They're the me generation, and what's he gonna find? It's like if you're really trying to find meaning, then isn't meaning gonna have something to say back to you about what you should do? And is he ready for that? Is he ready to do whatever it says that he's supposed to do? Because that's not making another play. Yeah.
That's super dangerous, Ezra.
Well, it's constantly talking back to him, though. I mean, and he just can't hear it, though. I mean, it's like all these really extreme experiences they all have. They're not just these extreme experiences. They're all like kind of like really wild outcomes. He eats sand. He brings the monk back to the house to live there. He sees the blue thing in church. All these different he gets buried, and that seemed to be like the most terrifying thing for him was the being alone in that and that actually that sparked a conversation between Ann and I about this whole idea of, do we actually die alone? Does everybody actually die alone? Which I hate this idea. I realized that one struck the biggest nerve with me. Because I can't stand the idea of dying alone, because I don't think it's true. And
another thing Captain Kirk was wrong about.
Well, I don't know, but like even the other day, I'm driving home and I'm not contemplating. I'm contemplating death, but it's really to really sit and kind of like wonder. That's a very, very hard thing to grasp, and then to think about I don't like the idea at all that I will die alone. Like I think I'll have a little bit of everything that I've ever experienced upon my exit. I hope that I'll be aware. I don't want to be taken with my back turned, I guess.
Well, I wonder if that's striking me as a aspect of his, maybe the individual, like his individuality culture, the me generation thing of like that, the way that they're sort of the way that he's framing the world. How could you die anything but alone? Like, what would it mean? To not die alone. It's like I kind of like this idea that's emerging where it's like the conversation at the dinner, that's life. Like this is actually the alive thing. It's not clear if all the stuff he's doing is alive because he's sort of alone. Like, it tells you about the people he did some of these things with. It's like he went to a forest with people who don't speak the same language as him. You know, he went to the Sahara with like a Buddhist monk, and they ate sand and like didn't really talk to each other. You know? But it's
Here's
like
an
here he is
interesting-
talking to Wally, somebody really different than him, who really loves him, etc. You know. And now I'm thinking that there is really something going on with, like, you know, Wally's going to go home and talk to his wife about it, or his
Well,
girlfriend.
What if the movie was called My Dinner with Wally?
Ooh,
Yeah.
That's interesting to play with.
It's funny. One of the few things I know about this movie, like after the fact, is when they did all their interviews and stuff. Eventually, they were asked, like, would you change anything if you had to do it over again? And Wallace Shawn said, we would have switched parts.
Right. But that whole idea of My Dinner with Wally, because you're hearing by the title of it, it's implying that we're actually getting the dinner perspective from Wally. We're not actually getting any of Andre's perspective.
True. Yeah. Well, have you guys ever had an experience where you had a dinner with someone who's sort of more buffer than yourself?
My wife?
Right. And then, like, it's interesting, like, how especially this time watching it, I was seeing how much, like, Andre, you know, it's like Andre's kind of frustrated and he's like trying to connect. He's trying to get Wally to, you know, unbuffer enough that there can be like a connection. But there's also this weird line towards the end where they're talking about he starts talking about Bertolt Brecht and how Brechtian theater had this distance between the audience and the players or whatever, and that, like, it's the distance that two people need in order to, like, actually connect. And it got me thinking, like, how much distance does Andre have in these, like, extreme situations that he did? It seems like there's a, you know, like, you can have too much distance, which might be like Wally, you know, there's some things that point to Wally being a little bit isolated. It's his girlfriend and him, and they're not totally part of a social community or something is a little bit implied. Can you have too much distance and then, like, too little, you know?
Yeah, because him and Andre aren't super close friends to start. Although it's my understanding that the dinner was a series of dinners, so maybe their friendship grew as they reconnected. So maybe you're seeing both of those, like they're disconnected at the beginning, but maybe as time went along, they became closer friends.
Olson, you haven't said anything. What do you got?
Yeah, no, you guys let wisdom speak where it will. So I was just listening to you guys.
It's all good.
I had maybe 2.5 thoughts. One, the half thought is that like I knew both. I know people who are Andre and Wally, like really like Andre and Wally, and you know, like growing up, my teenage and 20s, you know, I had a lot of friends from Southern California who were totally like that. They were just like totally like Andre. Hey, we're gonna, you know, we're going to Africa this summer, and then in the fall they're going to what Burning Man or whatever, and then in winter they're going Burning Man, and you know, they're always like looking for these crazy life experiences, and and so I knew those people. And then I knew the people of and at the same time, sometimes they were even the same people. They were like, you know, just enjoy the little things of life, you know. And so they would be like, oh man, I got this really sweet, like, artisanal coffee. This place has the best little coffee, you know, and I'm just gonna enjoy it. And You know, I don't even care. I'm just gonna enjoy the moment. I'm gonna journal, and that's all I really need. And so that half thought led me to the bigger thought. I think Andre and Wally on some level are two sides of the same coin, right? They're both materialists who are looking for something deeper. Um, and one is through the extraordinary, and one is in the ordinary. Um, but really they're kind of the same coin. Um, and then my other thought was, as you guys were talking about living your art, and I've heard that phrase a lot, and I actually really didn't like it. I haven't really liked it. But that's neither here nor there. There's a lot of things I don't like that other people love. So, but as we were talking about it now, as you guys were talking about it, something kind of clicked, and I posed the question. Um, Paul said, "To live is Christ," right? To live is Christ. Um, and I wonder if that was Paul's way of saying, like, live your art, right? To we we are not perfect, but we should pretend like we're perfect. We should act, play the part of the sacrificial savior. I don't know. Like, it was just something that was going on. I don't know. So those are my 2.5 thoughts. You guys keep giving wisdom.
I really like that you brought that up, because I actually don't. I agree. I don't like the idea of like having to be somebody who lives his art. Like for me, that completely killed like what art was. Um, but I didn't know that for a long time. So like if I was stuck in this kind of like I have to live my art, it became so narrow that it was just kind of like this self-centered, self-suck thing that kind of like, and then honestly it kind of when I get there, it kind of leads to like, let's go delete the YouTube channel and stuff like that. And or like I couldn't even, when I was living my art, I couldn't even listen to music that I loved deeply without being like ridiculously critical of it. You know, so like what I found in fatherhood is that life is way, way, way more brilliant and terrifying than any piece of art that I've ever encountered, and it's not even close. And so that's, yeah. I mean, not even that, it doesn't. They're not even in the same universe, and I think that's what art is for. That I can actually kind of talk about that a little bit in the best way that I possibly can, and still fail at actually getting it across. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's like art not as the end of it in and of itself, but as the medium for talking about that end the highest. Otherwise it becomes, yeah, just kind of becomes like navel gazing, looking in on itself. It becomes kind of horrific.
It's interesting. I like back when we were talking about how Wally is looking in the ordinary. Scott, you were saying like he's kind of looking in the ordinary, and Andre's looking in the extraordinary, right? But or was whoever was saying that? Olson, were you saying that? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, whoever said that. I was thinking about how that's just one of my favorite things about Wally. Is the like we really need the extraordinary to be in the ordinary. Okay, we need the extraordinary and the ordinary to like come together. And I think when he brings that up, it always hits with me, because one of the reasons I like this movie is, except for maybe the certain aspects of the New York the intellectual whatever of it and the class stuff and other things. It's like it's guys having a conversation. It's ordinary, actually. Perhaps there are things in the conversation that are kind of weird, but this isn't like, I don't know. I've just always been really drawn. I think that because of being raised with set, because of being raised worshiping film, that like I've had to learn how to live by them making films about normal people. So like this is a movie that you can kind of imitate this movie. You can actually take this into your life and be like, oh, I'm gonna meet up with some weirdos in Wisconsin and it's gonna be kind of like this movie, But a lot of the movie, I don't quite know how to live, the Matrix or whatever.
That's kind of, there's two off ramps on this movie in a way. It's the one you just described, Ezra, or it's like where you say like, I'm going to be inspired by this movie and I'm going to live into that kind of the exceptional experience of a good movie, the extraordinary experience of it, and I'm going to internalize that in a way, which maybe is the Andre angle, and that's not even critical, but that might be something that's more in that the spirit of Andre, and then the spirit of Wally would be to say, yeah, I guess I'm done with movies for a while or something. You know what I mean? And neither of them are wrong in a way. I just keep coming back to like, if you're in an internet community, you're more like Andre than you might be giving yourself credit for, because this is an exceptional arena, and we're having unusual and authentic experiences with strangers when we do this stuff. We're like Andre in interesting ways. I don't know what to do with that, but
take it back. Take it back.
Are we still strangers? Have you met anyone in TLC where they were not who they claimed to be? Ooh.
Yeah. McMosaf. McMosaf's a liar. McMosaf isn't anything like what you think he is. He's a complete fraud.
I don't know if I really know any of you guys. I know your profiles. I know our profilicity, and I like to think that we're very authentic about our profiles. That's the whole game. But it is a game. That's why we're on a live stream. So I'm just navigating that. And they navigated it. Two real friends put their names and wrote a script about a fictional / real life experience. And then they filmed it, which is a very extraordinary thing to do. And then they made a movie out of it that Ebert enjoyed and gave 2 thumbs up to. That's that's nothing ordinary about that.
It's very strange too that it's like Wally was in these, huge movies like Princess Bride. Andre seemed to pretty exclusively work in the theater, and it sounded like it for pretty experimental theater. If any of that stuff's real, then very experimental theater, and yet they came together to make, this movie at that time, is very strange. And like I also have thought a little bit about how this might have, inspired other filmmakers and stuff. Because before I ever saw this, I grew up watching these like Richard Linklater movies like Dazed and Confused and Before Sunrise and Waking Life. And like, they're very like this movie. I mean, and they're very podcast adjacent, like you were saying. Neil, what do you got to say?
I think I've only listened for about 20 minutes, but my favorite person to speak was Olsen.
Well, we didn't ask you to vote for the. Just kidding.
I like having favorites, so there you go.
That's all you.
No, well, sort of, yeah. I mean, it's Meaning Crisis, but neither of them. Yeah, I guess Wally's not willing to leave New York. Like the part where they're complaining about all these people that want to leave New York, but they're not willing to. Did you already talk about that? But the fear of giving up, the fear of giving up the missing out. like the willingness to like completely walk away and just give up. Whereas Andre seems to have completely walked away, but then he's back. And then, but is he evangelizing? Like, what is he evangelizing? Has Andre returned after hearing the good news? Or like, because it's not, he more so returns and says, here's what I found. And everybody else hasn't found it. But I don't know what to do. With that tone of voice.
Oh.
And it's more just questions.
Well,
and electric blankets.
So wait. So Neil, you don't. So does it bother you that there's no like resolution in this so-called story? It's not like there's no linear progression, other than the fact that they started dinner and ended dinner, right?
Yeah.
And-
No, I think it's very good at diagnosing the problem. You know,
Well, yeah.
diagnosis gets you halfway there.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like with the way you were framing that. I took Andre is he hasn't come back with the good news. It's like he's come back from the abyss. You know, but that's not nothing because he's not looking into the abyss anymore. Like he's not going further into the abyss, and he has turned around, and then he has put some distance between himself and that abyss. Right?
Do we know that though? Isn't that an assumption? Like I didn't leave the film feeling like Andre is in a better place than before his journey.
Interesting.
And what was he engaged in? He was doing a lot of slippery stuff. He was having
True.
authentic experiences with strangers over, you know, from all kinds of distant corners of the globe. And he couldn't see his neighbors. He couldn't see his own family, maybe. And that's why I bring up the dark mirror thing of Andre with internet communities.
Well, he does know that he wants to be with his wife forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knows
Yeah,
something.
he doesn't act like it.
Well, that's the
because he's looking back at those experiences. That's when I feel like he was the most animated, when he was talking about those past experiences, almost like he was nostalgic for them.
Well, there was a move, I would say, from the early 80s to the present. And this movie is maybe prescient of that move, where social status moved from being signaled through material possession to being signaled through experience.
Mm-hmm.
The true social status is the things that you could brag about to your friends that you experienced, that you went on. Oh, I snorted the great cocaine at Studio 69 or whatever the heck it's, you know. Yeah, that I was at the original Woodstock before it all went to.
But the thing is like he says, like he comes right out and says that I'm like this monster. Like,
True.
so is it? I mean, that's. I think that's like really, really interesting. I don't think we need to get any kind of moralizing or like. Let's have a moral of the story. There's no like, you know, a protagonist or antagonist. It's like I'm the antagonist in my own story is what Andre is saying. But again, it's written from the point of view from it's my dinner with Andre. It's not my dinner with Wally. So it's interesting. Again, that's kind of one of those weird things. But I thought one of the more interesting, ironic things was when they were shitting on the whole heated blanket thing, and they're eating at like this French diner or French restaurant.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he's like, if I would never wear you as a heated blanket because it would destroy, you know, my life or whatever. I can't remember how he said that, but here he is eating in this French restaurant rather than like
him. Yeah.
Right, rather than going into like the sewers and like hunting for rats and eating those, you know.
Yeah, but in Andre's defense, if he's spreading the gospel, he has to meet his prey where his prey will voluntarily feed. So the alligator hunts the wildebeest at the river. You know, the alligator can't move out of the river into the wildebeest territory.
He is. He's doing it with Wally. He sits down with. He calls Wally to have dinner. A guy who he knows is a writer, and so he knows he will get his story of being a monster into the ears of.
Sorry, I should have said crocodile, but I'm Louisiana.
Well, you know, I do like that. I don't know, like there's so many things to bump on in this movie just because of like who has made it and why they like, you know, I find myself thinking things like, oh, these are like the last elites who, you know, had a clue about anything or something like that, you know. So it's 45 years old. You know, but yeah, like I mean, I identify a lot with what I identify with in Andre is that he has gone to this is the unbuffered. It's that he's gone to this place where he's not like just trying to protect himself and that he is more confessional. You know, like he's realized that his whole life was for nothing. And which is kind of what he says at the beginning, you know, that he hasn't really lived his life. He's having to learn how to be a person for the first time. I just feel like reconstruction wise, how do you know, don't you have to have like an Andre stage at least of some level?
I want to develop
Rehab
that.
Andre, please. Let's do it. We can save him.
Well, so like I think it was agreed upon by the people on the screen and the people in the chat room that like if you're doing internet community, then you're Andre. But like,
so we're all Andre right now.
That seemed to be agreed upon by everyone.
Yep.
If you're lurking, are you Wally? Like, is the security blanket, like the electric blanket, is that like the unwillingness to come on screen? And so when we're all like, get on screen, you lurker, like, are we yelling at Wally to like let go of the electric blanket and just like, come on, get on screen?
I don't. That's
Maybe the
interesting.
screen is the electric blanket, sir. Maybe it is the electric blanket.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's
maybe the lurkers are yelling at us. Get off screen. Get off screen.
Well,
maybe we're all Wallies in a bad way. Yeah, maybe we're the yes.
You got to ask I think the question is, what's the point? Like one of the deepest questions about the whole thing is, what is the point of theater? And like, because through that question, I think what I get from this or stories like this or films like this is I like that there's no resolution. I like that there's no hero. I like that there's no direct moralizing in any particular way. It's like I see each character, and I'm supposed to kind of like, for me, this is what I like to do, and I think I do this even if I'm like reading the Bible or something like this, or really anything. I'm trying to see where am I at, and this is a perspectival kind of exercise. And that's one of the things I liked about the movie was as I was watching the movie, I was disagreeing with all these things, but not in the way that I disagree with like Claire Caw or something. You know, like it's a way that I can't respond to the disagreement with my disagreement. And so then it forces me to kind of sit and have like this, what is it that I think about this situation or this or this or this? Am I like this or am I not like that? And I liked that a lot. It's this strange mirror. And I mean, I think that's what actually when this, sorry, am I doing something weird?
Trouble. Neil, are you going to talk? What are you doing?
I'm trying not to interrupt, but say go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead. Finish, Chad.
I forgot. Yeah.
Well, okay. So for them in their conversation, it was a one-time thing, a blip in the night, and that was my dinner with Andre. And then it was just a blip in the night and it's gone. and he doesn't have to contend with Andre on an ongoing basis. And yet, whatever this is, we seemingly have to contend with one another on an ongoing basis. We still have the freedom to be like, that's enough of this crew. I'm out. Like that's I'm gonna take a break. It's I had my time in the sun. Goodbye. But if we want to stay in communion, it's a recurring game with us. We have to continually contend with one another. So, because we don't share the exact same beliefs, the exact same ideas. And so it is an entry into vulnerability to be like, I'm probably going to be changed in some way, shape, or form by the other parties that I'm coming into contact on a recurring basis. And a one-time thing is able to be dismissed as like, wow, wasn't that an enlightening theater production? Now I'm going to go back to normal. And that's sort of the difference between that and what we're doing, as I see it.
Well, to bring up another movie, I've recently seen this movie called Train Dreams. And it's a similar kind of thing. There's not like this real tight resolution or anything. It's very poetic. And there's a scene, or there's like this theme that's running through that movie that it best articulated what I feel when I think about being a father. And I've not seen that done in any other film. It was like really powerful. I was like, oh my God, somebody sees me. It was breathtaking. There's no, like, that's the resolution for me. You know what I mean? And so like, that's what I like about these kinds of particular stories. These aren't like, I don't like the idea of, let's open up this movie and press play and I'm going to get like this solid answer of like what I got to do and all this stuff. It's like, Jesus, man. So that's, I don't know, maybe that's why Neil and I are such good friends, because we're opposites in that way. Neil is very much like what's the word? Utilitarian with these stories. He has to have like, you gotta get the story with them. I'm like, dude, all that, man.
Otherwise, the story doesn't slap. If it doesn't slap, why tell it, man?
Yeah.
And the story slaps if the story, if it's an extraordinary movie about an ordinary experience in a way that encourages us to watch more movies, then either the story didn't slap or we weren't paying attention, I think. And I think Andre and Wally are both pointing to that they don't just want you to watch more movies. They want you to live better, and they want you to have better dinner conversations.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you want a resolution, because it doesn't resolve, if you want a resolution, read The Pilgrim's Regress. Because these guys are situated in Lewis's allegory.
Oh,
don't ask me where.
Well, I think we've just hit on like this is why it's like an all-time movie for me, is because it tells me to live my life like what you're talking about, like that I remember Vervaeke had this thing about like he defined what a real friend is. He's like a true friend is someone who's committed to you being wiser and you're committed to them being wiser. Like that's a friend. And so then I would think about, a Vervaekean friend. Like that's really what I want. I want that Vervaekean friend where growth is like part of this relationship. And I'd like to have other kinds of friends too, but I've only been willing to try those kind of friends because they seem so important. And so when not very many, like just when you were saying how that comes across in the film that they want each other to be better, it's like I feel that from the film. It's like the film wants you to think about these kinds of things. It wants you to be better. And it's like, well, how many films do I really get the feeling want me to be better? I think I usually feel like they wanted me to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want that.
Sure.
I think that's important to do. If you take the advice of My Dinner with Andre seriously, sometimes you just want to buy a ticket.
That's okay too. Yeah. Buy tickets and enjoy and see God in the movie, but also see God outside the movie too.
That
Yeah.
was my favorite point of Wally, is the seeing in. He said everything has the memory, everything has meaning. The cigar shop, that was my favorite
Yeah.
point. It's a rare thing, being able to see that. Maybe it's not rare for some people.
Do you think he knew that, or do you think he was saying that as a way so he didn't have to leave New York?
I think that was a defense mechanism of his part, but
he's right.
But he's right.
Yeah.
I love that part. That if we could really see what was going on in the cigar store next door, I think it would just blow our minds. And I also love the point of if we have to go to Everest, well, that's a real problem because everybody can't go to Everest. So if we can't figure out how to see it in the cigar store, maybe we're effed.
Yeah. The beautiful contradictions that these guys have are really beautiful. They cover all the grounds. All the bases are covered. If you can read between the lines. Sorry.
When I love how that brings everything back to the dinner. It's like the dinner is where they have an opportunity to enter into a spirit together in fellowship in this meal, and things could be altered somehow in this meal.
I think one thing that hasn't really been discussed is when I was watching it, I felt anger towards Andre because I kept thinking of his wife and his kids, when he's off doing these things, because I've known, like I said, I've known people like that, and I've seen the effect it's had on their family and their loved ones and stuff, and so, and I think that's what's kept, that would keep me from following that lifestyle, is just I wouldn't want to do that to the people around me.
Yeah, I mean that definitely, I think, is one of the darkest sides of it. Is just the to the degree that your enlightenment or spiritual growth or whatever is this thing that you view as individualistic and sort of self-contained. It's something kind of a little horrifying about that.
On the flip side of that coin, you have Wally, who is 36, not married, no kids.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's not how you'd write it if you were just trying to make these postage stamp versions of each other, right? You give him the kids and the family. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Okay, yes. We're bored. We're all bored now.
So I think it might be time.
Are you ready for some dessert?
Dessert. All right. Can we just? How about what was the most boomer thing about the movie? Anybody have any takes on the most boomer things in the movie?
I'll say something.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jesse.
I'm going to say something quick now. Bounce. It's the constant reference to the Hitler stuff.
The post World War II consensus.
Yeah, it was alive and well in there. Yeah, just it haunted the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
it's 1981, man.
Anybody else? Any boomer things that jumped out to anybody? It jumped out to me how they dropped the 60s. The 60s were the last burst of humanity before the end. Our glorious time that we did.
I don't even totally understand the boomer thing. I mean, I know when kinda it's appropriate to say it, but it goes so far over my head that I mean, I mostly say it to the younger people I work with, just kind of in the proper context to let them know I know they're saying something, but I don't know.
That's the most Gen X thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the things that does jump out is like if I watch an older movie, like some of those things that come up, like I think I try to do a thing in my mind where I sort of try to translate it. Like, okay, you know, this is some of the things they're talking about. Some of the ways they're living are kind of more of their time. But what can I get out of it to apply to me? So, you know, some of the things that's, you know, like this is a movie about New York intellectuals in the theater, you know. It's like, yeah, but like Rick Linklater movies are not about that, and they're very similar, you know. So it's like I would like to see, you know, like if I had to change something about this movie, it might be that. It's like, well, I'd like to see the more, you know, I don't know, the like I don't know that it's blue collar, but just like the unpretentious version or the non-elite version, the really more like everyman version. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, they wanted, and that's kind of a boomer angle right there, is they wanted the movie to kind of be an everyman conversation in a way, but New York and Hollywood were still very much considered by 1981 to be like the axis mundi for storytelling. So like if you're going to tell an everyman story, it has to be a New Yorker everyman story, which is not a very ordinary story in a way, you know. So like they get to be the priesthood class for storytelling in a way. There he is. There's Skank.
No.
He's
Not driving, for the record.
What do you got?
What's that?
I said, here's Skank to defend boomers. What do you got?
Yes, that's exactly what I was just slamming Gen X because they recognize they're starting to boom. And so their natural affinity is no longer with the cool kids, but where the numbers are for as long as they're numbers. Good luck, guys. It's the youngins that know how to operate the drones. Choose your allies wisely.
Amazing.
But I mean, I don't especially hate the boomers, but it's just recognizing that they are creatures that were formed in a particular time in history, a particular ecology, and the older you get, the harder it is for people to change. So, as a general rule, we shouldn't expect them to be quite as capable or flexible of accommodating the new kids, just because old people are set in their ways. So I know we got to maneuver around them as best we can.
Also,
Especially when
the
driving.
boomer of thy own eye in thy own eye. That's yes, boomers have all kinds of issues, but I'm not sure which other generation is going to save us.
I still think some of the my most beloved art that I venerate is from boomers, like across the board, music, film, all that stuff, authors, and they're all boomers.
I think in a way to elevate this film a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's kind of an anti-boomer film in a way, or it's willing to acknowledge that the answers weren't always figured out in 1969.
Sort of like boomer self-exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the boomer critique. The critique of boomers is that they think they had it all figured out, and if they just keep repeating the same mantras louder, that the world's going to finally catch up to them, and we'll be at peace. And the movie's kind of saying that there is something real, and we don't have it all figured out. Both of these two guys that are different, but they're honestly kind of same in many respects. They're both very New Yorkers. So there's a bit of a blind spot there, but it has some humility to say that we don't actually have it all figured out, which is not a boomer thing to do. And I really appreciate the humility of this film to cover all the bases, like Chad said, and yet to not, at the end of the day, wag its finger at the audience. That was really refreshing, honestly.
Well, I mean, your annoyance with the two characters is intentional. They want you to be annoyed by them.
Yep.
They did choose the setting of that French restaurant.
Yeah.
Which was in, I think, Kentucky. It's filmed in. I'm going to break the story a little. It's like filmed in Kentucky. an abandoned hotel restaurant that they rebuilt to look like
Oh,
that
funny.
restaurant. It took 2 weeks to film that. The script was 3 hours long originally.
Next, you're going to tell me the Shining Hotel isn't actually haunted. Stop.
Don't bring.
You're good.
You're dismantling my gods.
Cinema's a boomer god.
I'm a millennial. What can I say?
The thing I always think about millennials and boomers is like the Batman quote. It's like you either die a millennial or you live long enough to see yourself become a boomer.
Mm.
Right.
God, I hope to God.
No.
Yeah. Well, I think. I mean, again, I don't want to.
Exactly how I see it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just see it like I think about like what I know of my dad's experience to his father, and it's not like that different. Like everyone, they thought in the 60s they knew so much more and were so much more right than their parents. Like this isn't a new story. Like I don't know.
For me, the big thing is I worked for a long time in my life to destroy my life, and I finally got to a place where I feel some peace. I have a family. There's a lot of stability, and I don't want it to go away. I have a daughter. I have a wife. I have a mortgage. I have a job that's stable. Like I don't have disdain for humanity. I have all these things that I'm connected to in life in a really good way, and I don't want that to go away. And so, but I feel like the shit's on the verge, man. And so, that pisses me off too. It's like I worked my whole life to get to this point, and some little dickhead's going to come along and mess it up, and so maybe I'm becoming a boomer. Yeah, I guess so. That's all right. It's all right.
Well, I actually think that there
It's
could be
inevitable.
something to this idea that the last burst was the 60s, or I actually think we don't maybe focus enough on what happened in that time.
Well,
I'm not saying it was the
I
last
think
burst
it's
of humanity,
really
but
gross and disgusting to operate with the idea that the following generations are less than human or not even human. Like,
oh no, I don't
do
agree
you
with that.
do you owe anything to like the subhuman folks that were denied the burst of life by your peers?
No, I just mean that that I think that there are I noticed that we talk a lot about ancient history and we don't talk that much about recent history. So we don't talk a lot about the psychology of that generation that is currently still in power, how Vietnam affected them, etc., whatever. And I think that those things might be relevant to us, but I could be wrong.
Well, it sits in this weird twilight where is it contemporary or is it history? It's hard to tell. And it is deeply affecting us right now, but we don't have enough distance to actually see it well and critically. So it's like the historical subconscious right now. Like it's the elephant running us that we don't have really any power to kind of control very well because it's too hidden because it's so close.
What I'm interested in, what I'll probably end up doing a lot of research into is because there were a lot of people coming out of the 60s that were like, no, we can do it. We can do this right. We could build the next, and they started the communes and they did the thing, and they were confident they were doing it right and they were going to have success. And I think some of them are still around, but you don't really hear about them anymore. So where did they go wrong? What was their hubris? I think we'd probably agree they didn't have Christ at the center of whatever that they were doing. It's part of it. But there's also a pragmatic layer that's in between there. I don't want to have the hubris to think we're any different than what we are doing. So this is precisely what I want to discuss in Wisconsin. It's one of the things. But
See, he's already planning his dinner with Andre.
See, what's going to happen is I told Chad I'm going to pitch the group, and they're going to say, Neil, we're just having dinner. So I'll say, okay, that's not a good pitch. Now I have a second pitch. Say, Neil,
You're an addict, Neil.
And the third pitch, And then the fourth
Estuary is
pitch.
the training wheels. Once you have friends that you have deep connection with, you don't need estuary anymore.
Yeah, see, this is where you and Matt C are like on the normies sphere.
All right.
Well,
Excuse
just
me?
real
just
quick.
demonstrated
Have
the
you met me?
estuary is Everest. Estuary isn't the cigar shop anymore. It's the extraordinary experience.
Estuaries are literally at sea level.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I'm with Matt on this one. Estuary, I think, is training wheels for what because they're not doing estuary in My Dinner with Andre, and in a really deep friendship, it is very easy. You don't have to go through the protocol as much. Although I guess if you get a bunch more people in the room, it could get kind of hairy. But
see, I'm the kind of guy who rehearses every single thing I say before I go into a conversation. That's not true, by the way. But wouldn't that
Well,
be
and
funny?
good luck.
I have
Good
this
luck
giant.
getting those
But it's a believable fiction for you, Neil.
Okay,
Like
guys.
all of-
Really? Is that true?
You're a game designer. I can see your brain kind of running through, like dialogue trees.
so we have a high trust society in a group signal chat. So that's how they're able to do what they're doing right now. Just so you know, guys.
That explains it.
Yeah, it's also why they're not making videos.
All right. Well, this has been great. This has gone on for a while. It has been way too many grandmas. And so parting shots, guys. Matt.
You're all boomers. I'm the
any
youngest
last words?
person here. You're all boomers. You're all boomers. You're all boomers.
And take it back. The young generation hard roads. Exterminate them.
Yeah, I mean, if
I'd
you
like
don't,
to say my favorite part of the movie.
Let's strike that from the record. Can we bleep that out? I don't want my voice on the internet saying exterminate anyone.
Well,
Jokes. Well, yeah.
Scott.
It's not like I didn't already have a file.
yeah, how
Scott,
many
what was that?
Tibetan flags do you have in your house that you've wrapped yourself with and slept with overnight? And
They're all pirate flags.
Okay, I said parting shots. I was just like, have an ending thing. Don't actually take shots at each other. I don't know that. I mean,
I'm just following orders.
My parting is like, I think Neil's right. I kind of agree with Chad. It's interesting to hear that conversation even without resolve, but also Neil's right is they're searching for something, right? They're going on the pilgrim's journey, sort of, but the point of the journey is to end up somewhere, not just go on a journey and not end up anywhere. So this movie doesn't give you the answer for that. That's for sure. But it's still interesting to see people on the journey.
Yeah, and my parting shot is I would just I would double tap what Risto says. It underscore it by saying we're not if we're just it's an excellent movie and we should watch great movies. And sometimes we can watch dumb movies, but the purpose of this movie wasn't to get us to watch more movies. I think that's another way of saying what Risto's saying, because that would be us not understanding. That would be us thinking that the purpose of art is to just stare at more art rather than art being a bridge to understanding and communicating things that are too articulate for words, someone once said. So, and this movie was more articulate than the words that were in the script. And for that, I'm grateful.
Ethan Olson, Scott, Neil.
I got something real quick and then I'll get up. First of all, my sister says I was born a boomer, so I was born an old man. Get off my lawn. Just kidding. You come play on my lawn. I don't care. You want some lemonade? All right. And then second thought was I did not like the movie, but I loved the conversation. And thank you for organizing this, Ezra, putting it all together. And and everybody hyping it. And I'd love to be able to do it again sometime soon or later, whenever that happens. So thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
We talked a lot about like the distinction between like ordinary and extraordinary, and I think one of the things that I'm left thinking about is like what happens if you can collapse that distinction. And I think that kind of happens in the conversation, is that like the ordinary doesn't matter anymore, the extraordinary doesn't happen, you're just present to it. And I do think there's almost like a deeply non-dual aspect to the film that is inspiring.
So I think we missed something in the conversation, which was kind of the turning point of the movie. I think it was pretty significant that the shot across the bow, so to speak, where he's just shoveling food into his mouth and he doesn't quite get it right away. And then you see some fall out of his face. But then in that moment, that's when the conversation really just kind of goes. And that gets Wally into it. And I think it's just something to note as a thing. And probably my favorite part of the movie. There was a little bit of that, friendly banter that really got the thing going.
I just think it's awesome. We've got someone with extensive film knowledge experience, and I think we should do more of these. I think the key is obscure films that are excellent, that have aged well, and an added bonus is if they're free to watch on YouTube. So that was another key. I think we need to do more of that because a movie that just popped into my psyche, but it's not free on YouTube, is Harold and Maude. Have you ever seen Harold and Maude?
All time.
That's pretty obscure, but we should. I'd love to rewatch that. It's been a long time.
That's my dream. That's a dream double feature for me. Okay. Skank, did you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what ground has been tread, but I appreciate you. You spearheading this. Did not enjoy either of the characters, but I appreciated reacting to them. And unlike Neil, I would just say like I encourage you to like take your role as somebody who like inflicts films on us. Like I think you've earned enough credit that we'll follow you even if we don't understand why you've chosen a movie. I'm excited. I'm excited for what you send us next, and also send me Detective Rex.
We'll do. All right. I'm getting rid of you guys. You're going away. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. This is a huge movie for me. I have never not cried at the end of this movie, I don't think. When he's driving home and he's talking about all these thoughts he's having, and then he talks about how he's going to tell Debbie about it. And it's something about like, how is it that we can tell things to each other? I don't understand that. And I really appreciate it. So I really appreciated everyone showing up. I'm happy to do this on other movies. It doesn't always have to be on my stream. We could do it wherever. Thank you, and goodbye.
When I finally came in, Debbie was home from work, and I told her everything about my dinner with Andre.
Have you seen that?
No.